To order, week 5, winter quarter Senate. Let me share my screen. Okay, let's start with roll call. Roll call this week, we're gonna do a little bit differently. Traditionally, it's been Ariel asking a question and then everyone just commenting into the Zoom chat. But given what happened last week and there's been a need for kind of roll call voting, and for instead of doing roll call voting and like having you guys confused, we're going to start with roll call attendance first, just so you guys like know what to expect. But Ariel, yeah, take it away.
Perfect. So for roll call, I'm going to just say everyone's first name. If you could just say present, and I'm going to go by first years, then sophomores, juniors, seniors, and then at-large senators. So Jenna.
Present.
Willa.
Present.
Rachel. Rosemary.
Present.
Udita. Christina. Izzy. Theo.
Here. Present. Sorry.
Angel.
Present.
Meg.
Present.
Abby.
Present.
Diego.
Present.
Vanessa.
Present.
Ifani.
Here.
Carmen.
Present.
Sam. Hawad.
Here.
Emma L.
Present.
KJ.
Present.
Grace.
Present.
Cassidy.
Present.
Zakia.
Present.
Emma.
Present.
Olga.
Present.
Annika.
Present.
Pau. Melanie.
Present.
Madiel.
Present.
Perfect. And is there anyone's name I did not call?
Yeah, sorry, I came in a few minutes late, but this is Sam.
Perfect. Got it.
This is Christina.
Perfect. All right. So that's just how we're going to do roll call for now on. So when you request a roll call vote, that's what we're going to do. And I'll just go through the same list. And that is it for roll call.
Yeah, if I could just add one thing, when we're doing roll call voting, like make sure to have be like ready to unmute so we can make it as fast as possible. But yeah. Okay.
Justin, it's really hard to hear you.
Okay, sorry. Let me do that thing again. But basically, that was good. So for roll call voting, just make sure to be ready to unmute your mic, so that we can get through the process quicker. But yeah, so let's move on to the invocation. Can I please have a volunteer to read the invocation?
May we, the Student Senate, have the wisdom, patience, and guidance to be responsible representatives. May we be fair in judgments, enlightened in our discussions, and ethical in our actions. Can I get a go Broncos?
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos. Come on, y'all.
Broncos.
There you go. And now can I have someone read out the land acknowledgement statement?
We pause to acknowledge that Santa Clara University sits on the land of the Ohlone and Muwekma Ohlone people who trace their ancestry through the Mission Dolores, Santa Clara, and San Jose. We remember their connection to this region and give thanks for the opportunity to live, work, learn, and pray on their traditional homeland. Let us take a moment of silence to pay respect to their elders and to all Ohlone people of the past and present.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the approval of previous minutes. Here is hold up, sorry. Oh, it's this. Can you guys see this? Oh, you can't. Hold up. Let me share.
Motion to approve previous minutes.
Actually, before,
Oh.
sorry, one thing, Hwa's name is misspelled multiple times, Ariel. I don't know if this was just a draft or it is a draft, so hopefully that gets changed in the final version, but other than that, it looks good. Sorry.
I'll change it.
Yeah, and I had a motion from Cassidy, I think.
Yeah.
Motion from Cassidy. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second from Theo. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed. Previous minutes have been approved. Let's move on to the approval of the agenda. So approving the agenda is pretty simple, or the agenda is pretty straightforward. We're gonna have an updated rules presentation, just so we're all on the same page, in terms of what power you all have to control the flow of Senate. And Cole will go a little bit more into that as we go ahead or in this next portion. And then we're gonna go back to old business, looking back at Hawad's resolution last week. You'll see on the agenda, it says resolution and condemnation of the COVID-19 super spreader event. That's not the name anymore, but Hawad will kind of give the updates when we go there. But yeah, with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion from Meg. I didn't quite get the second. Who said that?
Me, Annika.
Annika. I'm second from Annika. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Aye.
Perfect. Let's move on to updates. I'll do the Senate exec updates first. So this week is Senate exec updates. Week 5 Senate. Again, here are all the winter quarter meeting times if you ever want to collab with a different branch. But yeah, let's start with Zach. Carmen?
Hey y'all, so we finally finished reviewing and completing the 65 NOLs. So that was really exciting because then we can move on to something else. So Marielle, Rachel, and Jenna have been working really hard on the Black History Awareness Month. They're doing a series of posts. So as you might have seen on the ASG Instagram, they did a series of posts. They're doing a series of posts each week. Next week, if I'm not wrong, it's about Black artists and how they've influenced the culture today. So that's been pretty cool. Melanie and Kevin are working on SOFT. They have a lot of plans to get the rest of the branches involved. And I'm working on the dissolution process for just adding that bylaw. So that's going to be interesting. Thanks.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks.
For FOC, we just had a CSC mixer, which is very, very fun. Thanks for having us. We had planned a SAC mixer on the 14th, and then hopefully one with CEC on the weekend of the 19th through the 21st. Still figuring out the time on that. So kind of diving into our main projects, Emma, Christina, and Izzy are working on incorporating a COVID safety aspect into the Greek Life Summit, and just met with Tiger this past Wednesday to kind of discuss the logistics of that. And then, I've been helping out with Pal's project and made a Faces of Sustainability video, and I've been working really hard on Splash with Cole. And then Olga's prepping for Lead Week with Aaron, and also working on BTA, of course. And Izzy had a Sioka committee meeting, and she's working with the Athletic Relations Task Force to make flyers and give them to the PR team. And then Pau is on top of her other projects is hoping to do a project with the MCC and Center of Sustainability in the future.
Hi, everyone. I'll keep it kind of quick because it's mostly the same projects. But yeah, we just had our mixer with FOC, which was really fun. I think we have bonding coming up. But yeah, I'm still working on labor rights teach-ins. I think the first one might be tomorrow or next Friday. And then, of course, the Student Safety Task Force. Angel is still working on her VTA task force and her ISAC projects. They now have the date for the diversity forum, so I don't remember it right off, but Angel, maybe you want to put that in the chat. Cassidy is still working on her all gender bathroom initiative, collaborating with FOC. Ifani is working on King's Talk, 100 Black Men of Silicon Valley chapter, and then the LBBA LSBA Diversity Council. So lots of really cool projects. And then Rosie's still working with Safe Sex SCU on the free STD testing project, so collaboration with Cowl. And then Sam's also working with Cowl, but on the warm line. And then Theo still has his Lyft project and Campus Safety Rose Life initiative.
All right, everybody, check out our new logo. We're testing it out this week. Send us feedback at asgcec@scu.edu. We had a great bonding session last weekend, and looking forward to another watch party this Saturday and next Saturday. Annika, if you want to plug your link tree, I know Justin did so in the email. Emma met with the President, Father O'Brien, about EMS and CSS. You'll recall that question when O'Brien visited. Grace is working very hard, I think, now trying to filter out some of these stories, really wanting to give admin a reason to have isolation spaces. Working on a post myself for our IG about just keeping people up engaged with the CSS issue. Have another PR, I guess PR is my theme now, post that I was helping create for the adjunct faculty page, as well as tonight's res. KJ is moving quickly, talking to a company to get them involved with the dojo, CS Dojo, and a very surprise event coming in spring quarter. I won't spoil that now. Congrats to Willa and Rachel for scheduling, at least vaguely, their first year poli-sci Zoom. And Zakia, I'm really excited for your panel 1 week from today, not to stress you out, at 11 a.m. That's not open to the public, but hopefully Zakia will have some great updates to share with you all about how it goes. Thank you, everybody.
Perfect. And with that, we will move on from updates. Oh, that's not the right one. There we go. So we'll move on to special orders of business, Senate procedure. So actually, I wanted to take a minute to talk about, before I hand things over to Cole, I know I sent this out in an email, but I know that not everyone reads my emails. So I just wanted to apologize for my handling of Senate last week, specifically in regards to saying that the standing rules had been suspended when in fact that we didn't meet the super majority threshold we needed. And I also got a lot of feedback from everyone. So going forward, like just in terms of changes to expect this Senate, we will be moving on to roll call voting as we mentioned earlier. Also, in order to make sure that it's fair and like we're prioritizing new voices, senators will be only allowed to speak twice per debate. And there's obviously a little bit of nuance to that. But basically, I'll be prioritizing the people who haven't spoken first, and then up to a cap of 2. That being said, if you want to yield, or if someone has a really important point that they want to say, a senator can kind of yield their time to give it to the other senator who's already spoken twice. But really the point is, just make sure your points are important and try not to repeat things. And I noticed that last week that that sometimes there seemed to be some projection or just some like, or when in terms of Hawad's resolution, there were some things that some senators would say that didn't necessarily reflect in the resolution itself. And if I see that today, I'm just gonna jump in, interject, and defer to Hawad to kind of clarify the resolution stance, and try to use quotes and try not to put words into the author's mouth, even though and just because like the author might believe something, if it's not in the text, it doesn't really matter because we're voting on what's on the resolution, not the thoughts behind it, if that makes sense. But yeah, and actually, and then handing things off to Cole.
At the end of the day, like as Senate chair, I obviously like control Senate, but I don't really have power over the flow and the speed of Senate. That's completely up to you. So I really like want you all to learn Robert rules and orders and standing rules, so you know how to, if you feel like Senate is moving too quickly, so you know how to combat that. But if you think it's moving too slowly, how to speed it up. But yeah, Cole, I'll stop sharing my screen and hand things over to you.
Thank you, Justin. All right, welcome everybody to the Senate procedure presentation. So I gave this presentation last, I believe, May to everybody, and then again a few weeks ago to all the first years. But after last week's Senate, I just wanted to kind of get everybody up to speed and refresh people, so that we can engage in a thoughtful and orderly Senate process. So I saw a few comments last week in the chat while we were in Senate about the purpose of the standing rules and why exactly we were suspending them. I think somebody has their mic on. Justin, probably. So basically the purpose of the standing rules of the Student Senate is to ensure that all meetings are fair, efficient, democratic, and orderly. So hopefully this answers more of your questions. We'll totally get more into them as we go on. And obviously you guys, you do all need to review them yourselves and kind of make sure you have a grip on them. So we'll start with motions. So senators can motion when they want to address something on the floor of the Senate. And we'll get into the different types of motions in a second. So handling motions. First, you're going to need to obtain recognition by the chair. And you would then state your motion by beginning with, I move that blank, and then state your motion. And then somebody else would then second that they agree with your motion. Recognition is not always necessary, however, and we will get into that earlier or later in the presentation. And the member who seconds the motion does not necessarily have to be in favor, but they would like it to come forward in the discussion. The chair would then restate the motion for the assembly and say, it has been moved and seconded that blank. If the motion is debatable, then the chair would allow for debate. And then the chair would put the motion on the table saying, the question is on blank, and then they would move on. And instances of voting, in this case, you would say all those in favor say aye, all those opposed say nay, which we consider a voice vote. The pro tempore will then call the roll. In this case, we're going to be moving on with the roll call voting. The chair will announce the result of the vote by saying the number in the affirmative and then the number in the negative for majority. For example, there are 15 ayes and 10 nays. And then if the vote is a supermajority, they would say 13 ayes and 6 nays. Basic math there. And we'll jump right into the types of motions here. So the first 7 are ranked in order of precedence. So they all happen kind of before each other. You can't have example for like amending before postponing definitely. And then these last 3 are non-ranking motions. So they're not ranked at all. And we'll get more into those. So the first type of motion is the adjourn. I'm sure this is probably most people's favorite motion. And this closes the meeting and ends Senate, and it does need a second, and it's not debatable, and the vote required is a majority. And essentially you would just say, I move to adjourn Senate. Very basic. And here we have the motion to vote, and the purpose here would be to force a vote in the pending question or a series of pending questions in the order of precedence. It does need a second, and it's not debatable. And here you would need a 2/3 majority. An example would be after being recognized by the chair, you would say, I move to vote on the question of blank. For limiting or extending debate, the purpose here would be to limit or extend the number of speeches per member on a question and to limit or extend the total time of debate. It does need a second, and it's not debatable. And the vote required here would be 2/3 majority. An example would be, I move to limit the number of speeches to 1 per senator on this motion, or I move that by 8:30 p.m. debate be closed and the question on the resolution be put to a vote. Or you could say, I move that debate on the amendment be limited to 10 minutes. And this kind of helps speed things along or slow things down. To postpone definitely, the purpose of this is to delay an item from consideration and vote while specifying the time at which the item should come back. The proposed time is amendable, and you would use a motion to amend it. It does need a second, and it is debatable, and the vote required here would be a majority. So after being recognized by the chair, you would say, I move to postpone the motion until the next meeting. And if the member wishes that it be made a special order, I move to postpone the motion until 7:30 p.m. at our next meeting. Here, amending, the purpose is to change the language of an amendable motion, and this needs a second, and it is debatable, and the vote required here would be a majority. So after being recognized by the chair, you would say, I move to amend the motion by adding or striking out and replacing with blank. It has been moved and seconded to amend the motion, is what the chair would say. So then now the motion reads blank. To postpone indefinitely, the purpose here would be to dispose of an item without having to vote on the actual main question, and to postpone with no time to bring it back on the floor. So essentially just get rid of it altogether. This does need a second, and it is debatable. The vote required here would be a majority, and after being recognized by the chair, you might say, I move to postpone the motion indefinitely. It would need the second, and then the chair would say, it has been moved and seconded that the motion be postponed indefinitely. Is there any debate? In which the chair would then allow for debate on the floor of the Senate. Here we have the main motion, and its purpose is to introduce business to the assembly by specific proposal of action to be taken. And this does need a second, and it is debatable. The vote required here is a majority, but generally speaking, it depends on the rules. So an example of this, after being recognized by the chair, I move to adopt the resolution. I move that the Senate create a committee with the power to investigate, to report back. It's very like general, basically, the main motion, because you can introduce honestly anything. Here we have a point of order. I think this really relates back to last week. Somebody could have used this point of order to call Justin to order when he said that the standing rules were the vote had passed when it had evidently not. So we'll get into this. So the purpose is to call upon the chair for a ruling and enforcement of regular rules when a member thinks that the rules of the assembly are being violated. It does not need a second, and you can interrupt the proceedings without being recognized by the chair, which is different from all the other motions that we just talked about, and because you cannot interrupt the proceedings. And here the vote required is none, but it requires a ruling by the chair unless the point of order is invalid. Or if the chair is in doubt and submits the question of the point of order to the assembly and is subject to appeal. An example of this would be, I rise to a point of order. For example, you could say that Senate Chair Justin incorrectly stated the outcome of the vote. Or basically, if a senator is acting out and another senator believes they're in the wrong, they can say, I rise to a point of order, and then they would state their point of order. So here we have the motion to appeal. And the purpose here is to put the ruling of the chair on a question of order. This needs a second, and it's sometimes debatable, and you can interrupt the proceedings, unlike some of the past motions we talked about. And this could also be used to interrupt Justin and basically call him out. I guess we can use a lot of these to call Justin out. Sorry, Justin. So an example here would be, I appeal from the ruling of the chair. It would get a second. The chair would then say, the ruling of the chair has been appealed from. The question is, shall the ruling of the chair stand as a judgment of the Senate? And then basically, if there is any debate, then debate would occur. And then we have parliamentary inquiry. This is really important, especially for last week. If somebody didn't know what was going on, you could have used a parliamentary inquiry to kind of figure out what's going on, ask some questions before we proceeded. So the purpose here is just to just ask a question about procedure and what might be happening in order to make your point of order. It does not need a second, and you can interrupt the proceedings, and there's no vote required. You would basically just say, I rise to a parliamentary inquiry, and then the chair would say, the senator can state the question, and then the senator can bring their question into the Senate. This is probably the most relevant to us right now, since especially over Zoom and with COVID and everything, things are so much different than in person. And I feel like things have been much more urgent. So we'll get into the purpose here. Basically, suspending the standing rules allows for resolutions, bylaw changes, and any other articles that are presented to the Senate to be voted on that same night instead of waiting a week as specified in the standing rules. Typically, this is out of order, but when senators consider the vote to be urgent, they can suspend the standing rules and vote during the same week. And this does need a second, and the vote required is 2/3 majority. So after being recognized by the chair, you would say, I move to suspend the standing rules of order. You would get a second, and the chair would say, it has now been moved and seconded to suspend the standing rules of order. Can I get a motion to vote? And basically, what I wanted to talk about on this is that a lot of people, I think, were confused about why we were suspending the standing rules last week, and if we could stop that. And I just wanted to talk about how it's the senators who have all the power here, and you guys can use these motions, you can use the bylaws, and you can use the rules to your advantage in order to make Senate go how you want. So if you don't necessarily agree with the way Senate is going, like, you can use these tools to your disposal and change the outcome. So we really want to see you guys kind of using all these rules, because I feel like there has been a lack of that recently, and especially a lack of participation from a lot of people. And I think it would be great to see a lot of more people kind of getting involved and using their voice, especially like even just seconding motions or something. I feel like it's the same 5 people. So if you feel like you haven't been participating, like, please try to make an effort. We would love to hear your voice and hear you participate. So that is all for me. So thank you, everybody. Hopefully we can all get to work and do better with the standing rule.
Yeah, great job, Cole. If I can add on to that, or at least at the end there, in terms of the staying present thing, I feel like a lot of senators have their cameras off a lot more than normal. So like, if you have your camera off, unless it's for a good reason and you've messaged Cole for it, please turn it back on. And yeah, no, I certainly encourage everyone to look into the standing rules, and for all the veterans, for all the returners, especially the committee chairs and senators where this is your second year in Senate, you know how the standing rules work, you know how motions and stuff work. So definitely like use it. And whenever there's like an awkward silence and stuff, like be very quick with like unmuting and motioning something, just to act as an example for all the new senators. And yeah, I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen, and we will go to old business. And I'll pass things off to Hawad for the resolution in support of COVID-19 accountability off campus.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Justin. So I just wanted to start off and thank everybody for their feedback last week at Senate. Again, I know we're reviewing rules because there were some speed bumps, but hopefully this is like an opportunity for us to go further than we have this year and be a really well-oiled Senate. So yeah, I think everybody helped clarify and strengthen tonight's version of the resolution. I specifically want to thank and shout out CEC for helping reflect on that, as well as Abby and Cassidy, Angel, Carmen, Meg, and Samantha as well, for all helping between last Thursday and today. So with that being said, I want to go right into it and share with you what's new between last week and now. by recommendation from Carmen, added a clause about the culture of care at SCU, our focus on our value of cura personalis. You'll notice that the general theme of the beginning of the resolution is just to ground ourselves in ASG's vision and values, our COVID pact, the school's values, and this culture as well. So applying these principles to the pandemic, updating our rising case numbers, inevitably, as well as deaths in Santa Clara County, and actually acknowledging, in addition to that, specific numbers. So shout out to ASGPR. I pulled this right from that weekly update story post about positivity in the week following the large scale event. Kind of cleaned up this citation area of other universities. So if you'd like to take a look at those links and actually see what they are. I mean, most are just other schools that have had similar incidents, but Yale, for example, has a hotline specifically for COVID-related concerns that students have. So check these off as I go. And then here's another big addition as well. So actually citing the email from Jeannie and Lisa Kloppenberg about behavior expectations, and actually articulating how this reminds us about our recommended isolation and quarantine recommendations and the consequences related to those. So you'll notice that the following two clauses which have been added, first of all, take a position recognizing fines for what they are, regressive in nature. If I am of a certain class and someone else is of a lower or higher class, that fine of the same amount is going to affect us very differently. It's a very regressive measure in the view of the resolution, while also agreeing that suspension is less so. It's proportional, it's reasonable, especially in response to egregious violations that are provable and seen through by administration. Again, that's not our job, but it is to say that they should be enforced. And that brings me to the last major addition, which is at the end. I think a major question people had last week, they were saying, well, this is a lot of good virtue signaling. These are a lot of good ideas and there's a lot of truth here, but what does this do? So this text at the end resolves that ASG supports a renewed commitment to the enforcement of academic consequences for irresponsible COVID-19 behavior off campus. So when we say academic, we mean suspensions. So the resolution TLDR is that suspensions should take place for violations of COVID policy. So it's very fundamental. I just wanted to switch to this little slideshow I made. This is a lot of text, so maybe if you want to read it, I won't read it all. I put together a few main reasons why I hope people will support the legislation. Resolution. It's not legislation, it's non-binding. So that's another big thing as well. Passing this does not mean that, we can't do other things, that we can't be, for example, restorative in other ways, or that we can't pursue other ways to address this issue. So number one is accountability. Prior to Jan 23, this was just kind of something OSL was doing. They're responding to reports. We already know SCPD is not particularly involved with events off campus. The fact that we got an email reminding us that consequences exist in the view of the resolution means that we need to renew our commitment. That's what the email did. That's what the resolution should do as well. Number two is just setting precedent, saying that Senate should respond to events in the community. This is what the resolution does. We should take a position. We shouldn't just respond for the sake of responding. So we're establishing our position in the resolution. And finally, these are very popular positions. So there's been a public outcry. Look at every media outlet you want. You'll see that they've been reporting about this. To a certain extent, when you look outside of a certain student bubble, you will see that people find this, what happened, very outrageous. So that's what we establish in the resolution. And we say that ASG needs to respond because this is popular and we represent our peers. So with that being said, I'm open to more questions for myself, the co-signers, held 2 feedback sessions in the past week. I want to thank Willa and Sam for coming through. It was great. So yeah, thanks everybody.
Yeah, so the floor is open now for any comments, questions, or concerns. And if you just raise your hand and then I'll just call on you. Cassidy?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to Hawad for taking all the comments from last week and for holding these sessions. And to all the signers, I think that the language is a lot more clear, and I like the fact that we got another week to work on this resolution. And so I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's put in the hard work, and I think it's a lot stronger resolution and has cleared up the language issues that it had last week.
Thanks, Cassidy.
Well, it doesn't seem like there are any questions or comments. Can I just get a quick straw poll? And this is just like raise your hand, don't raise your hands. If you feel like you're not ready to vote on this resolution, can you just please raise your hand?
Justin, you're really quiet.
Okay, it's because I'm on two different computers. I keep on muting myself on the wrong computer. But if it feels so, just a quick straw poll, because it seems like there aren't any questions or comments or concerns. Who feels like they're ready to vote on this now, or actually who feels like they're not ready to vote on this yet? If so, can you please raise your hand? And then that way we can get things all sorted and figured out. It seems like the Senate is ready to put this to a vote. I would entertain a motion to vote then, actually, but before then, Ariel, can you tell me how many senators are present right now, and how many senators we would need for this resolution to be passed?
Yeah, hold on one second. I think some people came in late. Check.
We should have 26 senators here.
Perfect. Okay, so there's 26 senators here. So we need 12 yeses. Okay, is that no call?
Wait, 12? That doesn't sound right.
Okay.
14.
14. Thank you.
Isn't it a 2/3 majority?
Yeah, okay. So we need 14 yeses.
No, because
Seven, I think.
it's just a vote, Justin.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I moved
I
to
think we're
vote.
talking about two different things. But yes, if you want to move to vote, Annika, motion to vote from Annika. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second from Sam. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Perfect. Now we're going to move on to roll call voting. In order for this resolution to be passed, we will need a supermajority, which is 2/3 of the current, which is 2/3 of the senators present. I'll do some quick maths. That means we need 18 senators to vote on this, or 18 yes votes, or 17 yes votes, either or. There's a technicality, but I'll do it later. I'll talk about it later if we do get 17 votes. But yeah, Ariel, I'll hand things off to you.
Perfect. So just say yay or nay, and then if you're abstaining, you have to. So Jenna,
Yay.
Willa,
Yay.
Rachel,
Yay.
Rosemary,
Yay.
Christina,
Yay.
Dio,
Nay.
Angel,
Yay.
Meg,
Yay.
Abby,
Yay.
Diego,
Yay.
Ifani,
Yay.
Vanessa,
Yay.
Carmen,
Yay.
Pam,
Yay.
Wad,
Yes.
Emma L,
Yay.
KJ,
Yay.
Grace,
Yay.
Cassidy,
Yay.
Zakia,
Yay.
Emma F,
Yay.
Annika,
Yay.
Olga,
Yay.
Pal,
Yay.
Melanie,
Yay.
Mario.
Yay.
Perfect. So there was only one no vote, so the yays have it.
Congrats, Wad, and everyone who has worked and who's worked on the resolution. The resolution has been passed. Wad, if you can get this sent out to everyone you outlined at the end there, that would be great. And with that, I will move on to the next slide. Hopefully this person is still here. Senator of the Week. And I'll hand things over to Meg.
Okay, yeah, so our Senator of the Week has really just jumped headfirst into ASG and gotten involved in a lot of projects, especially in line with her role as the Senator at Large for Sustainability. So congrats to Pau for doing a really amazing job. You have so many things on your plate and you've just been doing a really amazing job communicating updates to me as your committee chair and also just collaborating with so many different organizations. So yeah, really proud of you and keep up the good work.
Do you want to comment, Pau? I don't know.
I'm blushing. This is so cute. Thank you. I've really enjoyed my time so far and I'm having a lot of fun getting involved. Go ASG.
And yeah, so we'll move things to roundtable remarks. Does anyone have anything they want to start off with? Ciara?
I don't think I have anything.
Oh, I thought that was a hand. My bad.
I do.
Go for it, Anne.
Okay. I don't know if this is too soon. I might be rushing things. But just Ciara and I have been brainstorming and we are thinking of having this. We think it would be a blast. We want to do an ASG panel of past ASGers. For example, the first female president of ASG, she's probably our parents' age now, but I did find her LinkedIn, so we can find her. And other notable alumni. Ted did send the name of a former president who now is made the 30 under 30 list for Forbes for an organization that she runs. So there are some superstars in there, and I think it would be really cool for to have like an internal ASG event where we can all just like hang out, listen to some people talk, and get some questions answered just about life or ASG or whatever. So that is something that we are going to work on if people are interested. I think it has potential to be pretty fun. That is that though.
Meg?
Justin, you're muted again.
Justin, yeah, thank you.
Meg, sorry.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Just want to plug Splash really quick. So Cole and I are in the process of recruiting like SU student teachers for our event, and it would be really cool if any of you guys are interested in, you know, teaching a quick crash course in something that you're very passionate about to some local high schoolers. We'd really appreciate some ASG participation. And yeah, let us know if you're interested. I can send you the form to sign up for it. But yeah, that's it.
KJ. There we go.
Yeah, so this Saturday coming up at 2 p.m. we have our next official batch of basketball view party, watch party thing going on. So you can go ahead and sign up on Annika's link. It was a lot of fun last weekend. We had a good number of people out there just talking around and, you know, joking and watching the game and all that stuff. So if you want to sign up, again, the link is in the chat somewhere, and we can also post it in the main thing, and it's in the email. And yeah, we'd love to see you all out there.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion from Theo,
Second.
second from Cassidy. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Senate is now adjourned. I'll stick around for